Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, now in our 5th season looking into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. I'm Richard Woodward and you are tuned into the flagship show, available every week on video and audio for a sometimes irreverent but always informative hour or more of football conversation. So make your Christmas Monday a Blue Monday. And joining me for his hat-trick ball appearance, it's Seb Brown. Seb, happy Christmas, or nearly Christmas to you.
You can't say that. You have to say happy holidays.
Happy holidays. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Not so much yesterday, but looking forward to Christmas now. Finished work for 2 weeks, which is always nice. And I was hoping that yesterday would start off a decent run over the festive period, but more to come later.
No, none of that. No early Christmas presents for us. And also, there's this the jingle bells, jingle all the way chant. What I often is to see Ipswich win away chant. I haven't sung that in about 10 years. No. So I'll ask you for, let me drop you in the spot. Your moment of the decade at the end. We've got a poll coming up over Christmas. Plenty of content over Christmas. So I'll let you percolate that one away in the think walk.
Okay.
And we'll come back to that one later. The news, there's not a huge amount of news. Apologies, there was no midweek show. It's Christmas and we're busy and it's just felt like there's a lot of stuff the last few weeks with these cup games and so on. So a bit of a break for everyone. It makes hopefully the shows when we come back a little better. But some news, not too much to talk about. Some injury stuff. Sears played for the under-23s on Monday.
It'll be like a new signing.
And it'll be like a new signing. And he wanted to be back for Portsmouth, but that didn't happen. And Teddy Bishop is targeting Exeter as well. Good news, I guess, but you're not buying this whole they're like new players thing, yeah?
Well, I think it's just a bit of a cop-out, isn't it? It's an excuse we'll use when we don't inevitably sign anybody. I'm a massive fan of Teddy Bishop. However, what's it been now, 4 or 5 years that we've been saying, when Bishop gets fit, we've got a great player on our hands, and it's just not happening. Sears, I think he'll do very well at this level because he's proven League One at Col U, etc. But I don't think he's the kind of striker that we need. I'd much rather he was a big 6'3" lump that provides us some sort of physical presence up front. So I think he's a great player. I'm hoping when he comes back, Lambert might well settle on a formation on a 4-3-3 and use Sears as an inside forward like he was back in November time when he took over and Sears went on that really good run of form. Mm-hmm. But to say they're like new players, I think we'll just paper over cracks.
I thought you were going to go all Dark Knight on us. He's the striker we want, but not the one we need. Yeah. Maybe you should hit the weights, Freddie, or eat some chunky Christmas meals and get your weight up. He's how tall is he? Like 5?
I don't think he's not 6 foot. Is he?
Okay,
I like him a lot, but he's like Jackson. He's a nippy, quick player, and we already have one of those. We need a different option in my view up front. But
we do. Some quotes for you. The news this week is largely quote based, and let's see whether you agree or not with these quotes. Paul Lambert, firstly, he's in favour of lots of fixtures over November and October, less so around Christmas and New Year. He's an advocate for the winter break.
I wonder if that's anything to do with being in Germany.
Well, let me quote you. The games come thick and fast, and the travelling comes thick and fast. What he's done actually is it's quite a smart argument, is to bring the fans into it. If you can do that, then I think you get people on side. And you're asking fans to fork out a lot of money, and I think that's an unfair thing. I think the quality dips. When I played in Germany, clang! I loved the winter break, absolutely loved it. It was great for everybody, great for the fans. Are you one of these people, Seb, that likes the 4 fixtures or whatever it is over Christmas?
I love Christmas football. I'm a big fan of it. To say the quality dips because there's 4 games in the space of 12 days or whatever, I think is a bit of a cop out. I wouldn't like. I'd like a winter break, but not at Christmas time. I don't mind one in January, maybe after the FA Cup third round weekend. That's fine. But Christmas time, everybody's off work, and football is a massive part of it. You look forward to Boxing Day. You're seeing your families at Christmas time. It's a chance to meet up with friends in the pub and go and see some football. So I definitely in no way would want any kind of break over Christmas itself.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think I'd miss it. I think the Premier League's got one, hasn't it?
They have. It's staggered though, isn't it? It's staggered, so there's no weekend without football. All 20 sides get 2 weeks off, but it's staggered. So half play 1 week and then have a break, and the half play the second week and have a break. So I don't think we'll notice anything too drastic, but they are introducing it because of the preparation for the World Cup. And obviously, come 2022, December will be a bit of a write-off in terms of the World Cup. So I thought
the Premier League might introduce one next season, but I might be wrong about that.
I've definitely read it. I think you're right. I
don't think the EFL does. So
we'll pull our games off anyway. So.
Well, there's a market there for the EFL if the Premier League decides to disappear. So we are advocating against the winter break.
I was not advocating a winter break.
Paul Lambert is wrong. So says Seb Brown. Actually, I agree with the January one. I think a bit of downtime after January, and if it's about the weather, then that makes sense to do it in January just as much as it does to December.
Yep.
I picked this one out only, and it's kind of prescient, given it's a quote before the Portsmouth game yesterday, where Lambert says we need to be ruthless in both boxes, and this is a new one for you fans of XG, XA, WD40. We've got a new stat to determine our effectiveness, attacking effectiveness. Entries in the penalty box. So entries.
Okay.
Not diaries.
Right.
We're talking entries. We had 71 against Bristol Rovers. 71 entries into the penalty area.
Okay.
And scored 1 goal. So when you have 71 penalty box entries, quote, you expect more than 1 goal. So we have to be more ruthless in the attacking box and the defending box. Are you loving this nerd stat stuff, or do you just need to stick your boot through the ball and have a shot like Portsmouth did yesterday?
I'm not really a big XG numbers kind of person. 71 entries into the penalty box, I have no idea what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. I'd like to know what the stats against us were in terms of the entries into our penalty box. Mm-hmm. But you can have all the entries you want in the world. Yesterday, spoiler alert, the guy picks it up and just thwonks it from 20 yards. He's not in the penalty box, and he scores a perfectly good goal and wins 3 points. So I understand, in this day of statistical analysis and all the analysts employed by clubs and stuff, people are always going to find these kind of patterns and models, but for me it's not. It's just, football is essentially a simple game, isn't it? I think you can read too much into things, and whilst I agree we need to be better in both boxes, I'm not sure using all these statistics and whatnot to relay it to the fans is necessarily helpful.
I think XG is quite useful here, because I agree, the entries into the penalty box is swear word instead of swear word here. It's bollocks, because and I'm an advocate for XG, and again we'll talk about it in Portsmouth actually yesterday. But the quality of the chances is the most important thing from my perspective. Yeah. We have lots of incursions into the penalty area, but never look like creating we never cause the keeper to have to make a save, and that's what XG kind of tells you is the percentage chance, the probability of scoring a chance from that position where you are. And I think, we just don't create the obvious goal scoring opportunities to give us goals.
But also, if you took a corner and swung it in and the keeper catches it out of the air, presumably that's an entry into the penalty box. That counts, I assume.
I don't know.
The stats. I assume that would count. However, from a goal scoring perspective, it's rubbish. So
XG, I'm not sure. Ben would know what the XG on a corner kick is. But if you know what, if you're one of these stats people and know what penalty box entries are. Tell us about it in Twitter and enlighten us. And it's a good shout about what is the average of an effective
I have no idea. 71 high. He says we expect more than 1 goal. So does 50 lead to 1 goal? I've got no idea. No idea at all.
Someone who is talking a little bit more in terms I think we can understand is John Nolan, who had quite a few things to say last week. And again, prescient quotes in advance of the Portsmouth game. I'll read you some of these as well. He doesn't think the number 10 position is his ideal position. I'd say I'm more of an 8 box-to-box midfielder, but I can see why the manager wants to put me in the number 10 role, because I'll run all day. That's the qualification for me in the number 10, not the attacking potency.
Yeah, through balls, shots from distance, just run.
There was a little bit of criticism of how we go a little bit direct from times. Playing the long ball is like we're hoping that the ball drops there to create chances instead of building through the thirds, which we have the players to do. It's only my opinion. You look at our squad and we're set up to play football more than we are to go long ball. Just dissect that one, Seb, because I don't think anyone would disagree with that opinion, would?
No, I think he spoke very honestly, and I don't think any of us would disagree with what he said. I was quite surprised the way it came out, because all year Lambert's been saying, "Oh, we're doing really well," and blah blah, we're playing great football, blah blah. So I think it was a bit of honesty. I'm sure I read in there as well. He said he wasn't a big fan of the rotation policy. So again, there's more sort of murmurings that the players aren't necessarily on board with this chop and changing every single week selection process that Lambert is going through. I agree with the number 10 issue. I think he's a better number 8, a box to box. I would really like to talk to a Shrewsbury fan and find out exactly how he played in that 17-18 season under Hurst. I don't know if he was an advanced player then or if he was just a natural number 8, but he got, I think it was 10, 12 goals, was it, from midfield, and obviously he's not doing that for us now, so I'd like to know what the difference was, and is it another case of playing a square peg into a round hole just to try and fit him into the team? I appreciate he'll run all day, great, but if you're in the number 10 position, then you've got to be, killer through balls, attacking prowess, creating space for others, and for me, he doesn't do that. He's a very, very safe player. As we saw yesterday, there were so many times he would pick up the ball and check back inside and slow the play down, and for me, I think he needs to come out of the team for a couple of weeks, in my opinion.
Yeah, so there's some other stuff in here as well about in terms of promotion, automatic, anything else is failure in my eyes. That's my opinion, of course. If we end up in the playoffs, we'll give it our all, but for me, we should be aiming to go up automatically.
Yes, which I think most fans would agree with, especially given our start to the season. We have the biggest wage bill, I think, probably something that might be there or thereabouts. But we've got the biggest squad. We should have, in theory, the best players. And for the first 3 or 4 months, it was going really, really well. And now it is starting to drift away. And when you hear players saying stuff like that, it does add a little bit of pressure as well. And unless we get out of this blip that has become a slump that is now a rut, we're sliding down the table alarmingly.
Let's move things right up today. Let's talk about Portsmouth, because what Nolan has said is there's some stuff here, as we've said. Let's talk about the lineup. Seb, on the Blue Monday WhatsApp group, we all had a go at trying to name the formation. Yeah. And I think you were the only person who went 3-5-2. You got it right.
I did, yeah. I assumed with the
What did you know that we didn't?
Just the lack of wide options. Rose out for a few weeks. Giorgio is clearly going to go back to Spurs in probably next week or the week after. Edwards is the only real wide option. Therefore, I couldn't see it being a 4-2-2 or a 4-3-3. I didn't think Enciala would come in, obviously, but I thought 3 at the back would be the best way to try and get the fit players into the side, and we did look good with that formation earlier in the season at certain times.
So 3-5-2 is the starting formation. There will be a few more later on, though. So you guys who like the rotation of the formations, don't you worry. There are plenty of gifts here for you. Let's go through the teams. Norris in goal. The back 3, as Seb mentions, of Wolfenden, Enciala anchoring in the middle, and Chambers returns after a 2-match absence, I think it is. Enciala, this is his first league appearance since the Battle of Accrington, where it didn't go so well for him there. I think he played in the Cov replay, though, so it hasn't been out of the team for too long. But nevertheless, a surprise given Wilson is on the bench. It's a 5-man midfield with 1 advanced in the 10 position. And guess who it is? It's John Nolan, who hates it. Garb out left. Edwards comes in on the right. And it's Scouse and Downs just behind Nolan. Up front, it's Jackson and Norwood.
No, Keane and Norwood.
Keane and Norwood. Why have I written Jackson? Because I'm an idiot. Keane and Norwood. Tell us about it, Seb.
Well, Enciala was the big surprise. I think everyone was pretty dumbfounded. He's not played regularly at all. When was the Accrington game? Mid-October, I think it was. So since then, when he got hooked at half-time, you could argue he's played one FA Cup replay in the last 2 months. I don't remember seeing his name featuring for the under-23s in that period. I know he was injured for a while.
He's been on the bench quite a bit.
Yeah, but he's not match fit. He's not match sharpness like Wilson has. And for a game against a side that are on the up and are meant to be one of our promotion rivals, it seems strange to me to give a guy that's clearly not going to be match fit and he's going to be ring rusty at such an important start in the middle of a back 3. Mm-hmm. The 2 fullbacks pick themselves. Danasian is decent defending, but he's not the best going forward. So I understand why he played Edwards there. The midfield 3 again probably picked themselves. I guess you could argue Dazzel's played the last 3-4 games on the bounce. So potentially he could have kept his place in ahead of Nolan, but Nolan does appear to be a manager's favourite, so I can understand that. Will Keane scored a couple of goals. I would always have Jackson and Norwood up front personally as my front 2. Jackson's pace gives us a real outlet, but obviously for whatever reason Lambert decided to go with Keane, and spoiler alert, didn't really work.
Nolan's a big fan of that Jackson-Norwood partnership, and that's my excuse for why I misspoke there on reason why. Portsmouth, let's see how well I can stumble across the goalkeeper's name. Craig McGillivray in goal for Portsmouth. It's a 4-2-3-1 with McCrory, who basically was like an out-and-out winger throughout. Burgess, Raggett and Walks. Naylor, the captain, anchoring the midfield with Ben Close. Williams, Cannon and Curtis, and old boy Ellis Harrison. Unsurprisingly, I think, takes the lone striker position there. On the bench, two names of note, I guess, Brett Pittman being one, who I think we sold far too easily or cheaply, and Marquis as well, who hasn't really kicked on since moving from Doncaster, I want to say. But a 4-2-3-1 for Pompey. Let's get into it, because there's not a huge amount of quality football to talk about, or goal scoring opportunities, and Lambert said this in as much in his post match. The tone was set from minute one. Ellis Harrison running to charge down the ball and decides to lunge into Luke Chambers and earn himself an early yellow card. I guess that's Harrison's job, right?
Yeah, I think it was about 11 seconds into the game, wasn't it? We took the kick off. Chambers went to hoof it down the pitch, but it caught Harrison. He chased it down, and it was a striker's challenge. There appeared to be no real love lost between Harrison and our players. I don't know if he was if you read between the lines, was he maybe a bad influence at the club? I don't know, but he certainly, there was no love lost between them, and it was like Lambert said, it did set the tone for the game. It's an early booking, and the first of many cards to come.
Yeah, we'll talk about the referee a little bit later as well. 4 minutes, McCrory, this is the first real chance of the game, cuts back the ball to Williams, who's just inside the area, I think. He hits a shot, deflects, I think, off Wolfend, and Norris is quite smart to spot that deflection, and makes the save. 7 minutes, Nsiala gets a booking for what I've written here as a 50-50 shirt pull with Harrison.
Agree.
But the booking goes to the defender, which I think probably it usually does in that circumstance. And from that point onwards, and Lambert has again admitted as much, you start to worry a little bit about Nsiala, don't you?
Yes, I mean, he was unlucky. It was 6 of 1 half, and they've both got hold of each other's shirts. It's just a straight foot race, and Nsiala is trying to keep up with Harrison. Harrison's got the edge on him, so he does bring him down. And like you say, in those situations, it's always the attacker who gets the advantage. And at that point, 7 minutes in, I think I turned to you and went, great, 81 minutes, we've got Nsiala on a yellow card, brilliant. I think you know what is potentially going to happen. And in the first 7 minutes, we've straight away had 2 yellow cards, and that's the setting for the rest of the game.
It's going so well. 13 minutes, McCrory has a firm shot from outside the area. Norris gets down to take this one wide, though I think probably it wasn't on target. 20 minutes, this is where Lambert, I think, is starting to get a little bit nervous. Nsiala actually does well to slide in and win the ball on halfway. I think it's Harrison, he takes it off, but the referee gives the foul.
Yeah.
And actually,
bizarrely,
conceivably, I think could have given a yellow card if he's given the foul. And I think that's when the ramifications on the touchline start to happen, don't they?
It was a strong challenge, but it was a fair challenge. He won the ball, it went out for a throw-in. I didn't really see why all the Pompey fans were baying for blood. It's just a very bizarre decision from the referee that he did throughout the game, really. In my opinion, it wasn't a foul, but like you say, at that point, Lambert's thinking, right, that's his last one. If he makes one more mistake in the next 70-odd minutes, then we're in real trouble here. So at that point, I'm sure he's saying to Judge, start getting yourself prepped, because I'm going to have to make a change.
Yeah, Judge. Sorry, we'll talk about this in a sec. There's a 25-minute close as a shot. The theme here of Portsmouth having a go, I think, early on. There's no clear-cut chances to Town throughout this first half that I can recall. I think Garbutt may have had something. We've had a few set pieces as well. But there are no clear-cut chances for Town here. Pompey quite willing to have a go. You were going to say something?
Yeah, sorry, most of Pompey's chances in the first half an hour were a result of second balls, weren't they, on the edge of the box? So they'd play crosses in, or we'd make interceptions, and there's no one on the edge of our box to clear it. So it's falling to them, and I think definitely the first two, the one that you thought was going wide and the one where Norris makes a good save, are both just results of us not picking up the second balls, the Pompey player getting a strike in on goal and being positive with the play.
We are rubbish at second balls.
Yes.
Rubbish
awful,
at second balls. 27. Edwards is really lucky here. This is a really nasty challenge. It looked like he was a bit peed off. And Nolan will get a similar one later on. Edwards escapes with a booking. And Harrison has a chance, a little bit of a lame header back, which is quite easy for Norris. Here's the substitution that we talked about. So it's Judge who comes on in for Nsiala, not Wilson. The formation remains the same, so we've still got this 3-5-2. But Scouse is the centre-back dropping in.
Yeah.
And Judge, and I think Nolan swap. Well,
yes.
Judge comes in, goes to the number 10 position, and Nolan drops deeper. I think that's right, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. Wolverton seemed to go to the middle of the back three with Scouse on the right-hand side and Chambers on the left-hand side, so a bit of reorganising at the back as well. I assume Lambert might have done it. If he brings Judge on, he's still got flexibility later in the game if he wants to go 4-4-2 or change the formation. If he brings Danassian on, he'll struggle to really alter things at the back without sort of wasting another substitution. So I guess that was his logic, but it just stayed as it was. Portsmouth were kind of all over us, all three centre backs. No matter who played in what position at the back, they couldn't deal with Harrison. He was a handful all game, and it just didn't work.
And that's all the action I've got for the rest of the half.
We didn't have a shot on target in the first half, did we?
Not that I can recall. So no. I think my tweet at half time was that Pompey had the chances, but we were well in the game. Spells of possession, but real, unsurprisingly, a sense of people unfamiliar with the system that we were playing. Certainly the midfield was quite clogged up. I think I don't know whether Portsmouth's pitch isn't particularly big, but it did feel like everywhere we went, we were just crowded a little bit. But
isn't that just Portsmouth's high press?
Possibly.
I mean, our front two were very, very isolated in the first half. They didn't really get into the game at all, and every time we discussed the second balls, Pompey winning them every single time. So I think it feeling congested wasn't necessarily the small pitch. I think it was just Portsmouth high press and the fact that they were more up for it than we were. We seemed to slow the play down every single time we were on the ball, whereas they were positive and looking to go forward. And I think that's all it was with regards to the congestion.
The Keane Norwood formation now that I've got that right. Doesn't work, does it? Because Norwood is going to hustle and bustle and chase things down. Keane drops in, doesn't he? And basically becomes the number 10 anyway. Yep. And then you've got Norwood even more isolated.
Yep.
That doesn't work, does it?
No, that's why Jackson and Norwood tend to work quite well, because Norwood does all the ugly stuff, the hustle and the bustle, and Jackson will run the channels and create space for him. With Keane, I mean, we were started to go long yesterday. I know he's 6'2" or whatever he is, but there's no way he's a target man. I don't think he won a single header all game. So
more on that in a second.
Yeah, the game plan was to knock the ball long for him, to flick the ball on to Norwood running in behind. Norwood isn't blessed with great pace, and it just didn't work. But then, to be fair, how many times did they play together? I'm thinking, did you say you thought they played one of the Coventry games together? But apart from that, I know they were played on the pitch and substitutions and whatnot, but as a partnership, I can't remember them starting a game together. I'm sure you're right with one of the Coventry games.
I think Norwood came on in the Lincoln home FA Cup tie.
Okay,
and Keane stayed on. So that was.
But again, they're not starting, are they? So
yeah.
And Norwood only got 15 minutes in that game, didn't he? So
that's true. It was a kind of a last minute. It was last 10 trying to salvage the tie. Portsmouth. We spoke to a few Portsmouth fans before the game, and apologies to Tim, our mate Tim, and James as well. We tried to find you in the Good Companion pub. Must have to, if you want to make money as a pub, maybe put more than 2 people on at your busiest part of the week and at Christmas. So if you got served at the Good Companion pub, good on you.
Yeah, I mean we
ran out of patience.
It was the bar. It was 5 deep to get to the bar. 2 people serving. We stood there for 15 minutes. And didn't move forward once, so we just abandoned it. So apologies to the people we were meant to meet up with, but it just
I don't know where I was going on that little tangent. What were we talking about?
You're just ranting about.
I'm just ranting about stuff.
Yeah.
Well, more to rant about in the second half then. Let's start with the action. A bit of a scramble here. I guess Norris ends up doing quite well. I think there's a cross that comes in and he kind of
flaps it a little bit,
punch, but makes it. The ball falls. I think it's to. I've forgotten who it is. I can't remember.
I think it was the number 14, but I couldn't remember his name.
But Norris kind of quite smartly just puts a hand up instinctively, and fortunately the ball hits it. A header is then looped in from that, and Garbutt is on the line to save that one. But that was a bit of an alarm bells. 50 minutes, we finally have a real kind of proper chance. Norwood kind of
half chance.
It was a shot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Norwood brings the ball forwards. Ball bounces up for a minute, and he hits kind of a half volley thingy. But it's quite tame, straight at the goalkeeper. But it's a shot on target.
Yeah.
But another attack for Ipswich breaks down. There's a missed second ball header for Keane. And suddenly, I can't remember who takes the ball out, but it's certainly Curtis that ends up with the ball after it moves from right to left. And just inside our half, Curtis picks the ball up, Seb, and talk to us about what happens next.
Curtis is given the freedom of Portsmouth to run and run and run and run and run. Edwards backs off. I understand Edwards is on a yellow card, so to be fair to him, he can't go flying in. Scouse is the defender on the right-hand side of the back three, and again, he just backs off and backs off and backs off, and Curtis just thinks to himself, right, well, I'll have a shot then. And he does, and it's a good goal. It's a good hit. Norris, it seems to hit his wrist and flies up into the goal, but it was so preventable. Edwards can't make the challenge. He's on the booking, fair enough. Scouse can come out a little bit. He's not been booked. He could always just take him out, cynically if you want to, and you've still got the backup of Chambers and Wolfenden as two centre-halves behind you. So I don't understand why they just let the guy run and run and run. And what's really frustrating is when you see that, you think to yourself, none of our players would ever do that. Nobody would ever look just to run. I mean, Garbutt's got a good shot on him, but no one would look to just pick the ball up, head down, run, and just hit it. So a really, really avoidable goal. A great strike by the Pompey guy, don't get me wrong. He's hit it well. But from our point of view, a really, really poor goal to concede. The guy doesn't have to do too much to score, and it was 5 minutes after half time, wasn't it? And at that point, you start to think to yourself, well, we're not going to get an equaliser, let alone win it. So it's going to be 40 minutes now, sort of hanging on, and it was. But a really poor goal and really, really avoidable.
When we concede first, we generally lose, don't we? We are this fragile still after last season.
Yeah,
and it did feel like.
And they didn't have to do much score against, did they? The keeper, I think, rolled it out to one Pompey player. Keane misses the header. It goes to one Pompey player. He passes it to Curtis. Run, hit, goal.
Yeah,
they haven't got to work hard for it.
And your point, I tweeted as much this morning actually, just before we recorded, and said, who are the players in the Ipswich squad who can do that? Someone said Jackson.
No. Garbutt, I think, could.
Jackson scored a goal similar to that, I think, against Millwall, but it's few and far between. Garbutt, as you say, can run and have a shot.
He's got the shot on him,
but I think more to the point of the question was who's got the confidence or the intent to do that? Because Portsmouth were trying shots throughout the match. Mm-hmm. We weren't really trying anything. We really didn't have a way of creating chances, and that worked for Portsmouth. It's almost a brilliant save from Norris. I'm going to give the credit to Norris there. It's Bart-esque.
He gets down
strong
well,
wrist, he's just fortunate that he's quite tight to his line, because the ball obviously then just hits up into the off the bar, I think, and into the roof of the net. But otherwise, that was almost an amazing save.
And it had absolutely boshed it down with rain at half time. So I don't think that helped either. I think the ball, as soon as it hits underneath him, it skids quite badly. So.
But that's the cliche, right? So the pitch is slick. Have a shot. You know what I mean?
But we don't.
54, Garbutt does have a go.
Yeah. Shot on target, keeper saved it, yeah.
56, Chambers picks up the first booking for a challenge against Harrison. He's going to have another one later on, sadly. And here is the moment where Guinevere powers into life. Scouse is substituted for Dynastian, and it's the much fabled 4-4 effing 2 that comes to the fore. Judge moves out wide. And it's a standard back four from that point onwards. 62, Nolan lets the red mist get the better of him. That's a naughty challenge from him. Another card. And 65, this is the moment, Seb. Norwood finds himself right in the middle of the goal, from what I recall, maybe to slightly one side.
Slightly to the left as you look at it,
and what happens here, Seb? Because if XG is classifying his chance, I think. It's quite high up there.
Yeah, I've looked at the highlights this morning. It wasn't on the Sky highlights, and it wasn't on the fan recordings of the game, so I've not seen it again. But for me, all he had to do, I mean, he could have shanked it, he could have toe poked it, anything. But I don't know if he's out of form or if he's just not confident. But he shanks it horribly, and it just goes out. It just rolled across the face of goal, and he definitely should hit the target from that position. He's slightly out wide, so I guess you give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's on his left foot. I think he's right-footed, so he's on his wrong foot. But even so, from that distance, he's the guy that unfortunately has to deliver in the big games, and he just hasn't there.
It's kind of like a ballerina-esque foot that he kind of puts out there, rather than he could put a shin on that, as you were saying, or
toe poking, anything.
And this is when you start to get a little bit anxious or nervous about Norwood, because these big chances. There was one last week against Bristol Rovers as well. They come and go, and these are starting to determine the outcomes of fixtures and points. So again, to our conversation before about Sears being a new player, it might be that we need better reinforcements up front and options. And
I think that there are questions about that, so we'll come on to that in the questions.
We've got a substitution, and so having looked okay for 15 minutes or so, when was the
substitution? It wasn't that. I think it was about 7, wasn't it?
So it wasn't even that. You're right. So it's about 5-7 minutes of 4-4-2. We go to 4-3-3.
Yeah.
It's Jackson on for Edwards, also on a red card risk at this point. And it's a 4-3-3 formation. And again, there was no pattern to our play. This is when the fabled Nolan long balls, as he's criticised, start to come to the fore. It almost works later on. We'll talk about one in a second. Nolan himself has a shot. I think it's Nolan from just inside the penalty area. It's quite firmly struck. It goes out for a corner. 73. This is it. A long punt up the pitch. I don't know who by. To me, Norwood handballs this. He brings it down and kind of almost catches it, but does that kind of weird thing that I think Jim Majorcan used to do it, but actually controlled the ball with his chest. And he's probably found himself too acute an angle. And can't get the ball back across goal and hits the side netting. I don't think that was a particularly good chance there.
It was the one that he had before that was the much better chance out of the two.
And I haven't got anything more from this point onwards until 87 minutes, where Luke Chambers is going to find himself having a day off on Boxing Day. Lucky him, for a second yellow card, a rugby tackle.
Yeah, it was.
As Harrison broke down the right side.
It was a clear yellow. Harrison was a pest all day. I think we saw the Harrison yesterday that we hoped we'd signed last year. He was challenging for everything, putting himself about. He's quite quick. He's a big guy. He won an awful lot in the air. And Chambers, it was a silly challenge. Harrison in reality is probably not through on goal from that position, but he just sort of rugby tackles him to the ground, and it's a no-brainer. Second yellow card, and now we miss him for Gillingham, which means more changes and probably a formation change again, given Nsiala's form yesterday. So I assume we'll go to a back four. So yay, more selection stuff.
And that is a run of yellow cards before the end of the game. We haven't talked about the referee yet. Let's talk about this Wolfenden. Wolfenden's booked for dissent.
Yeah.
I think there's a similar incident at another game, and I can't remember which fixture it was, where Wolfenden is fouled.
It was Wickham, yeah.
It was Wickham. And then gets himself a booking for dissent. Stuart Taylor on the bench is booked as well. Jackson gets booked. Everyone's getting Christmas cards from the referee yesterday. And that is the match. That is a 1-0... defeat for Ipswich, 2 on the spin against teams who would... Well, Bristol Rovers, I guess, not expecting to be top 6. And Portsmouth, certainly, who should have been at the start of the season and maybe looking for a bit of a run now.
Town... And yet again, another team in the top half of the table, or the top 7, that we just can't beat. We're not going to get promoted by beating the bottom half of the table. It ain't going to work.
And on the face of it, if you take all of the previous few weeks of... rotation and moving players around and so on, and the slight consternation on Twitter, I'll call it, people moaning and getting a little bit concerned. It's a fine margin victory for Portsmouth. They've had more shots certainly on target. They've had 15 shots and 8 were on target. We've had 8 shots and 2 on target. So there's a story in terms of our attacking intent. 60% possession for us. But 60% possession in areas of the pitch which make no sense.
Yeah.
These are not possession stats that suggest that we are trying to find angles, we are trying to be clever, we are going sideways across the defence and across the midfield, getting to the 18-yard box, going backwards and sideways.
Every single time yesterday we had a chance to do something quickly, a quick release ball from midfield to one of the wide players, we didn't do it. We just slowed the place down every single time. Nolan, Scoos, Downs, they all did it. Keane. They would all sort of check inside and play it safe and, play a ball back and go back across the back 3 and then come back to the side and switch it back, and it just didn't work at all. We didn't have anybody looking to make that killer pass or that quick pass. We didn't really have any pace in the side yesterday with Jackson being on the bench. There was no natural outlet, but the way we slowed it down was so infuriating, and people on the terraces were getting very, very annoyed with it.
Yeah, boos at full time as well. So not all good. Not the season of goodwill at Portman Road and Town. I think,
or Fratton Park.
Out Fratton Park, wherever you want your football, all welcome, all equally good. Let's do some Twitter questions. So Town out. Did I mention that we're out the bottom 2?
Top 2. We're at the bottom 2.
Bottom 2 to come. Don't worry. Out goal difference.
Still got a game in hand.
Yeah.
But I mean, was Rochdale our last victory in the league? It was, wasn't it? So that's November. Possibly. That's 5. We were there. Fireworks night, November the 5th. So you're now closing in on 2 months since the last league victory, and it's not good, is it? Let's
get on to these questions then. James Houston is first up. How high on your wish list would a left back be? Would mean Garbett can play further forward and balance a 4-4-2 nicely.
Yes, I think that's what we have to do now. I think we need to go back to basics and go to the 4-4-2 we had at the start of the season, and that was Kenlock at left back and Garbett further forward. If we had a magic money tree, I'd say yes, a new left back is preferable. However, given the fact we probably have no money, I think there's other areas of the pitch that need to be strengthened first. But I would look now to bring Kenlock back in and push Garbett on.
Maybe we need a right back as well. Blue Soap talks about Kane Vincent-Young, who I agree we are missing so much.
Yeah, massively.
As he says, I know one player does not make a team, but he's absolute quality. We need consistency, and that needs to start from the back. Holy is a great keeper, would be my first name on the team sheet. Also, Chambers now to miss the Gills game. Some big games coming up. Your thoughts on this consistency point with Holy?
Well, we've changed apparently yesterday, I saw a stat on Twitter. Yesterday was the 8th time in 10 games we've changed the goalkeeper. I mean, how can the keepers prepare for that?
How can the defence prepare for
that? It's crazy. And yesterday we saw Norris came for a fair few crosses and either missed them or flapped at them or didn't get a decent punch, whereas Holy, given his size advantage, is pretty good at commanding his area and coming for the crosses. So I said it on the last time I was on the pod, Holy is our player. I don't really understand why we do this thing where we develop other people's players, but Holy's our player. He needs to come into the side now. And if Wolves say, you're not playing, Norris is coming back, all right, send him back. If we're spending 4-5 grand a week on Norris's wages, you could argue that with Prisbeck and Wright as backup keepers, that's a decent chunk of the wage almost being wasted to effect. There's nothing wrong with Holy playing all the games from now on. And back in the day, we remember, under Kelvin Davis and Richard Wright, the sub keeper was a bit of a joke thing. They never got played. I mean, back in the days when it was 3 substitutes on the bench, there was no keeper on the bench, was there?
So Lee Bracey and Mike Salmon.
Yeah, Keith Brannigan. I think there's nothing wrong at all with Holy playing all the games. Have one of the young lads on the bench. I presume Prisbeck is ahead of Wright in the pecking order, given the Peterborough game and given the fact he warms the keepers up before the game. And we need now just to have a settled number one.
Yeah, I think in League One a goalkeeper is not as particularly as important as it maybe is in the Championship.
No.
Adam Flatt. I'm going to ask this, Adam. Like I think. You probably don't intend it to be said this way, but I quite like to say it this way anyway. What is Paul Lambert trying to do? He's been here for over a year and hasn't the first idea what his preferred system is or his best 11. What is he playing at?
Yeah,
that's the flavour of some questions here.
Yeah,
Adam's got a great point, hasn't he?
Good question. He had a free hit last year. No one blamed him for relegation. So even if you write it off when he arrives in November, he's then got 6 months to develop a way of playing, a pattern of playing, and he just didn't do it. We played 4-3-3 pretty consistently last year, but there was a decent amount of chopping and changing with players. And this year, it's just crazy. I mean, could you see any pattern of play yesterday? No. Any ideas at all?
There's not.
We don't hit teams on the counter. We don't go. We don't build slowly from the back. We don't use the wings effectively. We don't really go long. We have no identity whatsoever. So a very good question, and I don't even think at this point Lambert really knows what he's doing.
Oh, Seb Brown, are you in the?
I'm not in the Lambert out camp yet. However, if he doesn't, go back to a settled 4-4-2 or a settled formation, and I mean, conceivably, it's not ridiculous to say after the Wickham game on New Year's Day, we could be out of the top 6. Yeah. There's only 3 points in it now.
Oh, it's tight.
There's only 3 points in it. We've got 2 really difficult away games coming up after Boxing Day, and if we were out of the top 6 at that time, or down to 6th or whatever, I think I would start to turn because I'm just sick of it.
Sick of it. Matthew Noble. Lambert will not be ITFC manager in August 2020. True or false?
I hope he is, because if he is, it means we've gone up.
Yeah.
However, I could very well see that coming true. I mean, Evans does give managers an awful lot of time, often to his detriment. Hurst aside, we could argue that he gave Keane, Jewell, Mick far too long. So I don't think Evans will do anything too rash. However, if Lambert doesn't sort this out, then the stuff on the terraces is going to go back to how it was in the last days of Mick's reign.
This PR, I don't know whether we've got questions about this, so apologies in advance if I spoil someone's question, but this PR campaign that he's been done, and people quite cynically have been talking about, is to get people on side, becomes quite fragile when on the field things start to flow, start to go wrong. You mentioned it was kind of a free hit last season, the relegation. The goodwill is starting to run out a little bit, isn't it? And particularly the home form as well.
Well, it is, because our home form's been poor, and it's all very nice chucking 500 quid behind the bar, but everyone would rather pay for their own pint and see, a decent home performance and see us challenging up towards the...
Not mutually exclusive.
But it's just... Every time he comes under a bit of pressure, we see a legend come out, or a legend come to the club, or some money goes behind the bar. Stop doing as much PR stuff and just sort it on the training pitch.
Do some training.
Yeah, coach people.
ITFC Mark.
Revolutionary.
Seb, liking this. Does the dip now mean that Garbutt won't sign in January? How long before a champ or Premier team comes in for Wolfie? We've not a hope of keeping him or Downs if we slip down the table. We've not been one of the top 10 in the league. Is it time to act now? ITFC Mark. That was quite a long old plenty there.
So Garbutt
he's
not
worried
joining.
about the little angle on this on the transfer front then.
Yeah.
Because we talked about Lambert. Concern about whether Garbutt might not fancy the move to us now. I'm not necessarily too sure on that.
Yeah.
But thoughts on does our status in the league, if we drop away from the automatic places, start Downs and Wolfenden's agents suggesting, well, look, if Town are going to be League One again, you want to get out of here as soon as possible, or is it?
I don't think that'll happen in January, regardless. I think even if we were to be, let's say, sixth or seventh come the end of the transfer window in January, I don't think those two would leave. However, I think they'd be dead certs to go in the summer to not to the Premier League, but definitely to the Championship, and we'll do that thing we always do where we sell a player one move too early. So we'll sell them both for about £2 million, and then in about 2 years' time they'll get Premier League moves with big £20 million fees, I'd imagine.
Merry Christmas!
Yeah, this is great. Yeah.
Jason, why have comparatively successful consecutive managers, I assume prior to coming to Ipswich, found Ipswich such a difficult job? It's not the money nor the owner, he says. Is there a clue in Lambert referring to Suffolk supporters as slow? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he said we're a bit slow.
There's something to be, as in it's Suffolk as a county is like relaxed or whatever.
Yeah, Roy Keane said that, didn't he? He said that there's going to be a demonstration against being in Suffolk. That means 3 people on the streets or whatever. I think we are quite a patient lot. We don't really have big expectations, do we? I mean, God, if these guys were at Leeds or a Villa, the pressure would be really on. All we want to see is good attacking football and be entertained. When he said no, not the money, not the owner.
Yeah, it's a bit of a leading question there, Jason.
I disagree. We are in League One through years of chronic underfunding and chronically bad decisions off the pitch. So I do unfortunately think it is the money and the owner.
And his point about comparatively successful consecutive managers, Keane had a little bit of Sunderland success,
but he had a very good squad.
Mick, obviously, decent manager as well, albeit we knew about the kind of drop off of teams. When he left,
Jewel got a team. He got a team promoted, but it was it 5-6 years after
having
he came to us. Football
done Sheffield
had changed.
Wednesday and Derby since then. Yeah.
Football had completely changed. Mick, like you say, has 2 promotions under his belt, but again, he was given money at those sides. At Wolves, he went out and signed 2 wingers. We never reinvested the money he got for the sales and never gave enough money to do that. Hurst was, I guess, he got to 2 Wembley finals at Shrewsbury, but ultimately lost them both. So I'm not sure he was overly successful. So for me, the one constant throughout those managers is the guy above them, and no clear director of football between the owner and the management. So I definitely think it's the owner.
Leo Neal's gone a little bit quiet of late as well, hasn't he? Having been put into this quite senior role. Paul Westlake is a name here that is being, the Lambert out noise is starting to increase. There are names being mentioned. This is Lambert's first real test for me. Last season was a write-off. Do we honestly think the likes of Nathan Jones would come in at the stage, or that Evans could afford to pay off Lambert and entice him anyway? We are where we are and we need to fight. So Westlake, Paul Westlake, sorry to call you by your surname there, suggesting that our situation isn't particularly a positive one off the field as well as on it. So dig in now. Yeah,
I mean, Nathan Jones isn't the kind of manager who will get his side to fight, I don't think. And also, if Nathan Jones would have come in, we don't have the players to play the kind of football he would want to play. We're a mixed match of, the end of Mick's era, the lower league players of Hurst and the sort of the ones Lambert's brought in. So he's not the name I would have. As I said, I'm still Lambert in at this point, but things could turn quite quickly.
Tommy boy, I think we've talked a little bit about this. Will Lambert stop being so pig-headed and go back to the 4-4-2?
Yep.
No idea how you answer this, but so annoyed, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely should go 4-4-2. It worked really well for us for the first 6-7 weeks of the season. If that means bringing Kenlock back in and pushing Garbutt further forward to make up for the lack of Rowe on the left-hand wing, then fair enough, do it. I think we might start to see a bit of a change in the guard now with Scouse. He started the season well, but his age is starting to show now, so I could easily see a central midfield 2 in a 4-4-2 of Downs and one other, and probably not Scouse these days.
Brad mentions the rotation of the goalkeepers. We've talked about that. Mike, if it were not for August and September, Lambert's 14 months in charge would presumably be one of the worst win records in the entire EFL.
Yeah.
Surely he is fast running out of credit. Interesting to call out the August and September run, maybe buying Lambert a little bit more time and less scrutiny, because his record last season, whilst we tried and failed to stay up, was pretty poor win ratio-wise, wasn't it?
When he came in, was it 5 points adrift?
I
I think we were 5 points adrift when he joined us in November, and by the time we went down, it was a much further gap between to safety. So he got the free hit last year. This season started really well. Combine that with the attendances being higher and the stuff he's doing off the pitch, he did have a decent amount of credit in the bank. But the more he does this chopping and changing and bizarre team selections, it's quickly running out.
Let's skip through these quite quickly if we can. Phil mentions the rotations again. We talked about that. Ben Aurier asks about transfer targets. He says, could the loss see us take a dip into the transfer market? I think we need reinforcements, regardless of yesterday, don't we?
I don't need a striker.
You talked about the target man. Is that your number one target?
Yes, I think so. Think Daryl Murphy 5 years ago. That kind of player who's a physical presence up front, can hold the ball up and bring others into play. I think he could play well with Jackson alongside him with his pace, with Sears alongside him with his pace, or with Nord with his hustle and bustle. So for me, that is the priority. Second to that would be a centre half. I would personally re-sign Tommy Smith. If he's free and he's in the building, I can't see anything wrong. He's left-footed, brings that balance to the defence. And at this stage with Encialo, in the form he's in, I can't see anything wrong with giving Smith just even a 6-month contract to end the season. Do
you remember when I said quickly?
Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay, let's keep going. Dave Gore, skip through this a little bit. Are we a better team? Are we in a better place, a better team than when Lambert took over?
Yes.
Okay.
You said go quickly.
Fine, good. Did Paul Lambert lose his lucky pants in November? Asked Justin. Are the current ITFC tactics the equivalent of freestyle jazz? Enjoying the GIF there, Justin. The mullet news of the week. Sacking Lambert is not the answer. It leaves us with an unbalanced squad made up of 3 managers, players, with a 4th man having a rushed window to add his own, and potentially leaving us lacking even more identity and surety. Discuss.
Yes, exactly right. If we were to let Lambert go, then you are looking at, you've got the end of the Mick era with Scouse, Chambers and Sears. You've got the lower league ones that Hurst brought in. You've got the ones that Lambert got over the summer, and then you've got a new guy looking to implement new ideas and new tactics and whatnot. You've gone from Mick's sort of safe long ball football, which was pragmatic but did ultimately work. We never went down, so about a third of the squad are ingrained with that. You've got the players struggling to make a step up from Hurst signings, and you've got Lambert's ones who now look bereft of confidence. So I agree, if you were to bring another manager in, you're just adding to the melting pot.
Michael Gooding's not happy. That's more of a comment there and a reaction. We feel your pain, Michael. Let's end with there's a couple here. Accrington scored 4 against Pompey last week. How many minutes would we need to play to have enough vital shots on goal to score 4? Asks pod member Craig from 75.
We'd still be playing now, which is 20 hours after the game, and we still wouldn't have scored.
Tim Pash. Let's end with Tim, given we failed to meet him yesterday. Apologies again, Tim. He's asked 2. Greedy. You're only one present from the list. Who's coaching the forwards? Not one diagonal run, not one incident where the forwards ran diagonals. More static than the Elgin Marbles, which is a reference I have no idea about. Do we miss Terry Connor?
Yeah, bring Terry Connor back in, yeah.
Yeah. That's the questions. Thank you, everybody, for those. Sorry we skipped through some of those, but always appreciate those. Let's do a quick roundup of what else happened in League One, because there were some interesting results that may have lessened the blow of defeat yesterday.
We got lucky yesterday.
I'll talk these through in the order that they appear on my screen. So Gillingham 3, MK Dons 1, Blackpool 0, Shrewsbury 1. So Blackpool form team of late. That's Shrewsbury a little bit up and down, but it's a good win away there. Bolton 3, Southend 2. Bolton are chasing Southend down.
Yeah.
We'll check the league table. We'll see if Bolton have overtaken Southend. But
I don't think they have yet, but I think Murphy scored again yesterday.
Did he?
So yeah, I think so.
Southend, bloody hell. Imagine being a Southend. You think you've got it bad, Ipswich Town fans. Go and support Southend United. Bristol Rovers 0, Peterborough 0. That is a good result for Bristol Rovers, I would suggest.
Yeah.
In their quest to stay in the top 6. And
more importantly, it's a great result for us, yeah.
Yeah, Bristol Rovers managing to stifle Isa and Tony if they played. Burton 3, Rochdale 1, Cov 1, Lincoln 0. Cov back on track after a bit of a blip. Donny 1, Accrington 1, Oxford 1, Wickham 0.
Yes, thank God. And apparently Akinfen were sent off and therefore suspended for Boxing Day, when apparently they have Portsmouth.
Yeah, we heard about that one yesterday. Rotherham 2, Fleetwood 2, and Tranmere 1, Wimbledon 0. Let's have a look at the top 6, Seb. It's still Wickham who head things with 43 points, and Peterborough and ourselves on 36 behind. But we have a game in hand on both. Bristol Rovers, as I say, well in there now in fourth. We're only 1 point behind us. Cov 1 point behind them in fifth. And Oxford make up the top six with Blackpool just outside. Let's go and have a quick butchers down the bottom. So Bolton are now on 5 points.
2 points.
5 points.
Yeah, sorry, they're 2 points adrift of Southend, but they've only played 18 games.
But
so they've actually got 4 games in hand over Southend.
It's a little bit mission impossible for them to survive at this point, but you never know.
No, it is.
And that is it. We've got plenty of action coming up over Christmas and New Year. I've not done a play your stats right because I was so pissed off after yesterday.
And we were very cold
and
and very
cold
wet,
and
to be
wet.
fair. It was a crap drive back, so...
Yeah, so apologies for that. Well, I'm sure we'll do more over Christmas. In terms of the kind of pod lineup for Christmas, we were going to kind of merge Gillingham and Lincoln into one, but we are going to do separate shows. We are going to give you an extra Christmas bonus. So Mikey, Joe and Dave will do Gillingham, and you and I and Craig will do Lincoln. And then I think it's me and Mikey for Wickham as it's done so far. So all the matches covered in glorious Technicolor over Christmas. Your thoughts, Seb, you'll give us your predictions of how many points we're going to get out of these and how many formations are we going to see as well.
Well, I'd like to see a solid, just go back to 4-4-2. I assume with Chambers out and with NCR's form very questionable, he'll have to go to a back four and have Wolfenden and Wilson on Boxing Day. I think we'll beat Gillingham. However, I can see us losing to both Lincoln and Wickham if he keeps making the strange decisions in the strange lineups. If he goes for a settled 4-4-2, Jackson and Norwood up front, Garber on the left, Edwards or Judge on the right, Downs and another in the middle, I'd be a lot more positive of our chances. But if it keeps as it is, I could see us just beating Gillingham and losing to the other two. But I am miserable, so there's always that.
Humbug. We'll see about that. We've, as I said, plenty of assessment analysis after these games, and and thank you for. We've got plenty of stuff coming up over Christmas and pods. We're also going to have a bash. I mentioned this at the start. A little bit of a poll on moments of the decade.
That'll be a shortlist.
I'm putting some stuff. Actually, there's more than you think.
Is there? There's Arsenal, but
I guess in the pantheon of Ipswich Town history, these are not kind of up there with winning the FA Cup or UEFA Cup
or
Wembley playoff finals.
Yeah.
So we'll put those out, I think, as Twitter polls, and then we'll come back and do a pod, possibly the start of the new year, to analyse those. What's your moment? What's your standout positive moment? Come on,
it probably is Arsenal, isn't it? Right at the start of the decade, 2011, wasn't it? Priskin's goal. Yeah, I mean, you got mixed year. We finished 6th, but ultimately was there's some great games that season. I remember Brentford away and the Leeds at home games. There's some really good games, but apart from that, it's let's be honest, it's not been a great. Well, it's not been a great 20 years in reality, has it? But Jesus, this is miserable.
Come on, well,
for me, it would be Priskin. It was a great moment, and Portman Road was full, and that was a really, really good night. So for me, that's my highlight. We scored a goal and beat a Premier League side.
And there was quite a lot of kind of hoo-ha about it afterwards, wasn't there?
Yeah, all the Fabregas stuff about playing long ball, like kind of rubbish. So yeah, for me that was definitely the highlight, and hopefully, maybe, you never know, in 10 years' time, you could still be sat here and discuss the moment of the 20s, and we could say, that promotion when we went unbeaten from Boxing Day to May was epic in League One.
Up through the divisions in one go, and we've been there ever since. Fingers crossed, So we'll set those out. We've got about 5 or 6 categories, and we'll set those out and let people give us their opinions, and then we'll run through the results. So you can find all the information for that on our Twitter account at Blue Monday ITFC. You might have seen yesterday that I was having a little go on that one. So Ben has given me a Christmas gift of the Twitter account. So I'll use my power for good, not for evil. So you can find that and all the details of these polls at Blue Monday ITFC or on my account at Ipsrich. Seb, where can we find you?
At BrownS08. And I must say also, get involved on the on Statman. He's got a thread about the best player of the decade. It's quite good to get involved in. So make sure you get voting on that, please.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice, depressing reminder of how many great players have played for Ipswich the last decade. Also, we're on Instagram now, Blue Monday Pod Team, all one word. Again, some good stuff, bits and pieces from Portsmouth yesterday, if you want to go and follow that, and hopefully more to follow, including Mikey's adventures on the trains and various beverage for his trips down there. And I think that is it, guys. And girls, thank you very much for all your support this year. It's been a good one for us. We've had our first live show. More details of hopefully a couple of bits and pieces in the new year. More on that to follow. So it just leaves me to say thank you for all your support, all your likes and interactions on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and wherever else. And a Merry Christmas. I hope it's a relaxing one. I hope it's an enjoyable one. I hope you can forget about football and Paul Lambert and rotations and goalkeepers and stuff for a few hours, and we'll be back to reality against Gillingham on Boxing Day. And as I said, keep an eye out for the pods for that. Have a good one, everyone. And Seb, I'll let you have the final word. Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, thank you. As I said before, delighted to be helping out with the pod. So thank you very much to every single person that asks us a question or interacts on Twitter and watches the YouTube clip and listens to it. It's all very, very much appreciated, and I know none of us at all take it for granted. So thank you very much. Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a great New Year, and let's look back and hopefully we'll go unbeaten now from Boxing Day till May and have a celebration of a promotion.
Ho, ho, ho.